Hello English learners, and welcome to another episode of English Lessons with Grammar Man. Now, I recently received a message from one of our followers on this page, and he asked me about prefixes and how to know which prefix to use. Okay, great question. So first of all, what are prefixes? All prefixes are letters added to the front of words to change the meaning of the word. Very often, when we add letters to the front of a word, that is, when we add a prefix, we create a new word with the opposite meaning of the original word. Some examples, we can take the adjective happy. We add a prefix, un, to the front of the word, and we end up with the opposite of happy, which is unhappy. A couple more examples of prefixes. The verb agree, we can add D.I.S, and we end up with the opposite word, which is disagree. And I'll give you one final example. The adjective correct, we can add in, and we end up with the opposite of the original word, which is incorrect. So just so that you are aware, prefixes don't always create the opposite meanings, but many times they do. So the next question. Now that it's clear what prefixes are, how do we know which prefix to add to the root word? Well, there are many prefixes, but maybe 20 that are used regularly, and around 175,000 words in English, give or take. And it just depends whether the root word has a Germanic origin or whether the original word derived from Latin. And then we can work out what prefix to use. That's one method, which I definitely do not recommend because it's basically impossible. Or we can learn the following simple pattern that I'll quickly show you now. There is one caveat though, and that is that this is basically the only rule with prefixes, and it is sometimes broken. It does not work with every word that you add a prefix to, but it does work with the majority of words, and that is why I'm going to show it to you now. So let's jump in. Rule number one, I am. I am is a prefix, and it is a very handy prefix to know because we add this prefix to words beginning with M or P to form their opposite meaning. An example, we have a root word, mature. We can add the prefix im, to make the opposite of this word. So I am plus mature equals immature. And you may have noticed that we ended up with a double M. That's a bonus little spelling rule for you. When you add a prefix to a word, you don't normally change the root word, the original word. We'll go with another example, the adjective movable, which just means something you can move. Your phone that you're probably watching me on right now is a movable object, something you can move. Now, to make the opposite, we add the prefix im, because movable starts with M, and we end up with immovable. Your school is an immovable object, for example. Now, just like the examples I showed you, mature and movable, both starting with M, became immature and immovable, we could have an adjective starting with P. For example, possible. And we add im to form the opposite of this word. The opposite of possible is impossible. Okay, rule number two. Before words beginning with R, we use the prefix IR to form the opposite meaning of the root word. For example, the adjective responsible, we add IR plus responsible equals irresponsible. So no such words as unresponsible or irresponsible or disresponsible. The root word starts with R, so we add the prefix IR and we end up with irresponsible. And lastly, rule number 3, IL. IL is used for words starting with L. An example, legal. Legal becomes IL plus legal equals illegal. And you will never spell illegal again with a single L, because you now know the reason why so many words have a double consonant. And you can sleep easy in that knowledge tonight. Alrighty, so that's a wrap there, everybody. I hope that I've helped some of you with understanding what prefixes are and how we use them. There's not a lot of rules, but I've given you the 3 key rules. Just remember IM, IR and IL, all prefixes used to normally create the opposite of the original word that they are added to. And we use IM for words starting with M or P, IR for words starting with R, and IL for words starting with L. That's it for today's lesson, everybody. I wish you all a ripper of a day and all the best with your English goals and life goals. Cheers.